Let's now move on to our final main topic today. Chris, what is our final main topic today?
Final question's coming from Roy Blackburn. Hey, John. I love Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but like a lot of other people, I had a little bit of a problem with how they portrayed Bruce Lee. Personally, I found it a little offensive. Quentin Tarantino is now defending how he portrayed Lee. I actually think he's just making things worse trying to defend it. What do you think?
Well, I mean, look, let's be clear here. Right off the top, let me say this. I'm not the biggest fan of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I like the film. I do. I like it. In a world of it's either thumbs up or thumbs down, I give it a thumbs up. I liked it. But I did have issues with it. And I know there's somebody in this room who liked it even less than I did. So let's just say that. From the first time I saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, did I raise my eyebrow a little bit to the portrayal of Bruce Lee? Yeah, a little bit. But did I have a problem with it? No, absolutely not. I had no problem with it. You know, I thought, look, in some scenes in that movie, they portray him as a very giving guy. He's, having fun with other people, and they're showing him teaching other people how to do things and being very generous and all that kind of stuff. And then they had this one funny scene, and it's all one scene. And then he had this one scene with Brad Pitt that everybody takes issue with. And, a little bit of a spoiler. For those, it's impossible to talk about this topic without giving away a little bit of a spoiler here. So here's a small spoiler about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. There is a scene in the movie, so mute your computer right now if you don't want to hear anything about it, but this really doesn't have any long-term effect on the movie, so don't worry about it. There's a scene where Brad Pitt's Cliff character and Bruce Lee get into a little bit of a fight. All based on Bruce Lee being a little bit arrogant and Cliff having a bit of a not being able to keep his mouth shut sort of thing, right? And it goes on, and they kind of fight to a draw. I always get fascinated when people say they're offended by that, right? Because really, there's a hypocrisy in saying that. And guess what? All of us film fans do it. You've done it. I've done it. We all do. And this is what we do. When somebody's portrayed a certain way in a movie, and it's not somebody we're particularly a big fan of, there's nothing wrong with it. But if it's somebody you are a fan of, then that was offensive, right? There's a huge hypocrisy in that. And you do it, and I do it, and it's one of the more annoying things that we as film fans do. And we really should stop, because we all do it. And, you bring such a revered character like a Bruce Lee into it. People are Bruce Lee fans. I'm offended by that. Well, it's just portrayed a certain way. Anyway, Quentin Tarantino has now come out and kind of justified what he did. And one of his comments that he made about how he used the Bruce Lee character in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was this. We said, look, I'm a Bruce Lee fan too, but he was an arrogant guy. And by the way, him talking about how he would destroy Muhammad Ali and stuff like, he did say that. And you go read his widow's book about him. She even tells a story about how he said that. So it's not that far of a stretch. But this is the most interesting and on-point thing I think Quentin Tarantino had to say about the topic. Tarantino said this: could Cliff, that's the Brad Pitt character, could Cliff beat up Bruce Lee? Brad would not be able to beat up Bruce Lee, but Cliff maybe could, Tarantino said. If you ask the question, who would win in a fight, Bruce Lee or Dracula, it's the same question. It's a fictional character. If I say Cliff can beat Bruce Lee up, he's a fictional character, so he could beat Bruce Lee up. Now, this is coming from a story out of Deadline with Quentin Tarantino talking about how he used Bruce Lee in the movie. And I'll tell you what, I'm not going to be ambiguous about this. I think Quentin Tarantino's 1,000% right. I think he is 1,000% right. Look, when you get into these Quentin Tarantino movies, whether it's Inglourious Bastards, whether it's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, he clearly takes a lot of liberty. He introduces fictional elements into some based on real events and then plays in that playground and hopefully delivers a really good, entertaining movie and what have you. And again, right from the first time I saw this movie, I personally had no problem with it. And I think what Tarantino's saying here is completely legitimate. Cliff is a fictional character. So who's to say, and I loved his example, if we ask, could Bruce Lee and Dracula had a fight, who wins? It's the same question. It's a fictional character. He only tells us a little bit about Cliff. For all we know, Cliff was the most lethal. I guess he says Cliff's background was actually a Green Beret. They don't express that, I don't think, in the movie, but they say his background is a Green Beret. He's one of the most lethal killers ever in the history of the American military. Who's to say that this fictional character couldn't have done that? And it's a movie and it's fiction. And I personally feel Quentin Tarantino's completely in the right here. That's my thought on this. Rob, I wasn't thrilled with this movie overall, and I know you liked it even less than I did. But how do you feel about the whole Bruce Lee portrayal, and what do you think about Quentin Tarantino's comments?
Well, first of all, this movie is all about deconstructing myth and legend about Hollywood. And Quentin Tarantino loves Bruce Lee movies, as evidenced by the bride's tracksuit in Kill Bill 1.
Yeah.
You know, this is not... It's so funny to me that every time a Quentin Tarantino movie comes out, there's always some kind of weird outrage around it. I mean, Quentin Tarantino is who he says he is. Now people are like, well, you know, he doesn't like women. It's like, really? The guy who made Jackie Brown? The guy who made Kill Bill with the bride? Really? I mean, Quentin Tarantino is all about taking all myths and legends in various movies, in Hollywood itself, and he's had a career deconstructing movies, beginning with the crime thriller, a heist movie where you never see the heist in Reservoir Dogs. And now this movie, he's doing the same thing. I didn't particularly love Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. As a matter of fact, it might be my least favorite Quentin Tarantino movie, but I understand why certain people love it. But the whole movie is about deconstructing myths. And when you take Bruce Lee out, the point of the movie, that's one scene where the point of the movie is really hammered home, because the myth of Bruce Lee, the legend of Bruce Lee, is immediately destroyed by, as he points out, a fictional character, because nothing in Hollywood is real. And that's the point of the movie.
Well, listen, guys, I want to know what you guys think about Quentin Tarantino's comments. As a matter of fact, we're going to make that the subject of today's question of the day. And you guys can just go over to my Twitter handle, which is simply right there, just at John Campea. And I'm asking you guys today, just before we started the show, I put up today's question of the day on a poll there. And the question of the day, Tarantino is now defending his portrayal of Bruce Lee in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Is he justified in doing so? And right now, 72% of you guys seem to agree with us that yes, he is justified in defending his portrayal of Bruce Lee because of everything that he said in there. Still 28% of you guys are saying no, he shouldn't justify this because it was offensive, whatever. What do you guys think about this? I'm going to leave this poll up for the rest of the day. Once again, you can jump on over to my Twitter account and cast your vote there. Again, 72% of you guys right now are saying a little over 1,000 of you voted. 28% of you are in the negative on that. So go on over there and let us know what you guys think. Okay, guys.